Hi, for today's video, we are going to talk about Greek mythology's god Hades. Hades was not an Olympian god. Despite being Zeus's brother and one of the most well-known Greek gods, he lived in the underworld, a place of tremendous misery and gloom. The gateway to the underworld, which was guarded by the three-headed hound Cerberus, was placed deep under the earth. Hades was a strong deity who had authority over the afterlife, destiny, and wealth. He led the dead to the afterlife according to Zeus's laws. He was so admired and dreaded that his name came to represent his domain. Hades was a great judge who could compel those who were reluctant to speak the truth to do so. Hades, the ruler of the gods, and Poseidon, the god of the sea, were his two brothers. When his siblings disagreed, Hades frequently served as a mediator. Hades wasn't known for having compassion. The birth of Hades. Zeus, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Poseidon, and the titans Cronus and Rhea are all brothers, as is Hades. Cronus would devour each of his children as soon as they were born to stop a prophecy about his own death. But Cronus was scared of being the absolute monarch. Hades was so confined to his father's tummy. After being set free, Zeus and his siblings overthrew their father and the Titans. Then Hades was made the Lord of the Underworld. As Lord of the Underworld, Hades is in charge of looking after the souls of deceased mortals who are delivered to him by the Greek messenger god Hermes. In addition, he is in charge of all underground treasures. Titanomachy's Hades. Zeus was the sole child to be freed from slavery. After he had grown up on the island of Crete, he would return and free his siblings. Cronus, his father, and other titans who had imprisoned them were targets of his determination to overthrow them. In his mission to achieve independence, Zeus set out to find allies. He made a request of the Olympus gods. They acknowledged Zeus's plight and considered to give him soldiers and weapons. Cronus shared a potion with Rhea and Gaia that was supposed to make him invincible, but instead made him regurgitate his chained siblings. As Zeus led a rebellion against his father, Hades would play a crucial role in the conflict that followed, known as the Titanomachy. During the battle, the Cyclops presented Hades a helm of darkness that would have made its wearer invisible. Since Hades broke into the Titans' camp and destroyed all of their weapons and ammunition, it was he who put an end to the plight while wearing the helmet during the Titanomachy. The helmet would be used by Perseus later. The realm of Hades. The three sons of Cronus were forced to split the cosmos among themselves after their victory. The control of the heavens and the earth was handed to Zeus. The waters were given to Poseidon, and the underworld to Hades. Drawing lots was used to divide the group. The Greek underworld is now commonly thought of as hell, and Hades is frequently used in place of the word hell. The Elysian fields, which resembled a paradise as well as Tartarus, the bottomless pit of hell, made the ancient Greek realm more than just hell. They might spend all of eternity in either Tartarus, the Elysian fields, or the emptiness of the Asphodel meadows, depending on how their lives had been lived during the judgment of the dead. The souls of the dead were made up of the inhabitants of Hades' domain, but the deity differed to their opinions and preferred to just bask in the awe and reverence that came with his position. Though death was occasionally confused with Hades, Thanatos, a son of Nyx, played the role of death as a separate god in Greek mythology. Hades and Persephone. The Greek god of the underworld, Hades, searched for a suitable queen because he did not want to live out all of eternity by himself in his realm. Hades would be drawn to the goddess Persephone, a son of Zeus and Demeter. Because Persephone refused to join the underworld voluntarily, Hades decided to abduct her. She grew distraught and put her work on hold when Demeter's daughter disappeared. This will eventually set Persephone free, but Hades was prepared to leave his wife right away. As a result, Hades would coerce Persephone into eating some pomegranate seeds because everyone who eats food in the underworld is compelled to do so. During Persephone's fourth stay in the autumn and winter, Demeter would be upset and restrict crop growth. However, during Persephone's fourth stay with her mother in the spring and summer, crops would grow. The Hades' symbols. Although Hades served a different purpose in Greek mythology, most people today prefer to confuse him with Satan. With a two-pronged fork and a scepter in one hand, Hades would be sitting on his ebony throne. Hades rode about in a black chariot pulled by 4 coal-black horses. Probably his most well-known symbol was Kerberos, an echidna offspring with 3 heads that served as his guard dog. Greek mythology's Hades. Hades was a god who rarely left his domain. Therefore, Greek mythology typically focused its tales about him on trips to it. Despite the widespread belief that no living thing should ever leave the underworld, many people did. Theseus and Pirithous would travel there together when Pirithous decided he wanted Persephone to be his wife. But when the couple sat down to lunch with the deity, Hades would confine them both inside the stone seats because he was fully aware of their plans. Theseus would eventually be set free by Heracles, while Pirithous would remain imprisoned forever. The Greek deity Hades was feared, but he was also regarded as just because, of course, everyone died and he brought balance to existence. Why is Hades always the bad guy? These are top 5 reasons why he isn't. Being the lord of the underworld is a challenging job. Greek deity Hades frequently receives unwarranted negative press. Why he shouldn't is as follows. Hades is likely the Greek god who is misunderstood and incorrectly seen by the most. The gods Hades are the antagonists in Clash of the Clans, Disney's Hercules, and Percy Jackson. These translations usually portray the Greek deity Hades, sometimes known as the god of the dead, as being up to no good, plotting his latest evil plot and causing havoc on everyone in his path. However, in the canon of Greek mythology, Hades doesn't really cause any problems. He is one of the gods who is the calmest and most impartial. Therefore, why is Hades portrayed as the antagonist in most adaptations of Greek myths? 5. Greek deity of the unknown, Hades. The Greek god Hades' name, derives from the term of unseen in ancient Greek. The tragic story of Hades is only the beginning. The meaning of Hades' name is apt given that his deeds frequently went unnoticed. Hades first supported Zeus and Poseidon, his younger sibling, in their titanic conflict with Cronus, the gigantic titan, for control of the cosmos. When the prizes for the winners were given out, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were given rule over the sky, the sea, and the underworld, respectively. The god Hades may have been unhappy with his decision, according to some sources, but he never expressed it or asked for a different position. Hades is confined to his realm in the underworld and lacks a home or sacred place on Mount Olympus, despite sharing a generation with the other Olympian gods, and is therefore not referred to as an Olympian. In order to distinguish himself from his contemporaries, Hades uses the title chthonic rather than the Olympian one, which roughly translates as everything connected to the underground. Ironically, Pluto was never thought of as a planet by astronomers despite being the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Hades. This tragic pattern involves the exclusion of the god of the underworld. The Greek god Hades had fewer shrines than the other Greek deities. He had a considerable cult of Thesprotia, where there was an oracle of the dead. Because there haven't been many of them found, there may have not been many Hades sculptures built. Contrary to other gods, such as Aphrodite, who are infamous for becoming enraged and violent if they are not worshipped, Hades is not mentioned in any myth as exacting revenge on mortals for their ignorance. 4. Despite Hades' silence in the Greek myth, He is shown in films like Disney's Hercules as a vindictive figure who schemes to obliterate Mount Olympus. In contrast, other gods in Greek mythology try to usurp Zeus, the king, while Hades never does. Poseidon and a couple of Zeus's other gods attempted to overthrow him because they were upset with the way he was running the universe. In this case, Hades wasn't there. Hades was a third party and he wasn't the one who started it. Throughout the epic conflict known as the Trojan War, Hades remained impartial, in contrast to other gods who eagerly took sides and inflicted more destruction than the people. As a result of all the deaths brought on by his erratic fellow gods, Hades must manage the influx of souls into his realm. Instead of causing trouble, Hades must deal with the results of his actions, a crowded underworld. Hades impartially allowed him to uphold his just rule and order. The queen of the underworld was the object of Pirithous' desire, and he convinced his friend Theseus to help him in his quest to abduct her, according to a legend, until Hades located them and they were bound to the chairs of forgetfulness. Heracles eventually liberated Theseus, but Pirithous was compelled to remain to receive this penalty. Given that the scheme's primary planner was given a stiffer term than the accomplice, this is a very reasonable approach. Most gods would have executed them right away for trying to steal their wife. The powers of Hades as a judge. Hades was the perfect guardian of the dead since he was very hard to sway. The Lord of the Underworld must be quite callous because so many people asked for the resurrection of the deceased loved ones. Numerous myths claim that Hades had an iron heart. The one time he was moved to tears by another person's loss, he cried through iron. The Greek god Hades judged the departed, along with his personal choice of jurors. Hades' responsibilities included preserving the natural order of the cycle of life. People were only punished by him because they had upset the balance between life and death. He didn't do it out of resentment, jealousy, or retaliation. Initially, Sisyphus claimed that he hadn't been properly buried, and Hades agreed, allowing him to leave the underworld to make atonement, according to a story. Sisyphus then prevented himself from passing away a second time by capturing Death as he came to take him back to the underworld. Nothing could now die because death was now prevented, which led to pandemonium. Sisyphus was given the punishment of rolling a rock up a hill for all eternity. Ironically, Zeus, who disobeyed Hades once more, administered this punishment. Like Hades and Persephone, nobody is perfect. The incident that is under question in Persephone's kidnapping. Is that the right description though? Hades abducted Persephone from the world of mortals and wedded her there. In the Homeric hymn to Demeter, Hades asked Zeus for permission to wed his daughter. According to Greek law, Hades had the right to kidnap Persephone and make her his wife in the underworld. That doesn't do the woman much justice, but that was the Greek culture then. In addition, Persephone freely chose to consume the pomegranates that, according to most tales, would tie her to the underworld forever. But Hades allowed her to spend the first half of each year outside the underworld because Demeter, Persephone's mother, was upset about it. Hades didn't have to do this, but he did. As opposed to being portrayed as a rapacious kidnapper, this version of Hades shows him to be a man who respected Greek traditions and even made accommodations to please his mother-in-law. 2. Hades is the most devoted Greek deity. In comparison to other deities, the Greek god Hades makes a superior husband. Despite the well-known ties between Hades' brothers Zeus and Poseidon, Hades stayed loyal to Persephone. However, Hades' devotion is questioned in the cases of Minth and Zeus. However, there is no established timeline for these passionate encounters. They can be positioned before Hades and Persephone's wedding. Zeus was an ocean nymph, was kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld out of love. Hades changed her into an Elysian poplar tree when her existence ended. Hades showed his respect for their romantic love by making the poplar tree a religious symbol. It seems that the myth was Hades' former sweetheart. The chronology of the text is murky, but it appears that Minth felt jealous when Hades married Persephone, saying she would win back Hades' love. In the tale, Hades appears to disbelieve her claims And Persephone, however, responds by changing mint into a mint plant. Hades, friend of the heroes. Hades is never the evil guy in any Greek mythology, despite what the popular Hollywood renditions would have you believe. On the other hand, Hades offers assistance to heroes who request it. As one of his 12 labors, Hercules arrives to deliver Kerberos, Hades' three-headed watchdog, to the world of the living. Hades grants Hercules permission to take Kerberos for a walk as long as the animal is not harmed and is returned safely after the encounter. Given that the name Kerberos is thought to be related to the Proto-Indo-European word Kerberos, which means spotted, Hades deserves extra points for naming his dog Spot. Perseus, the hero who slain the Gorgon Medusa, was given the Helm of Darkness by the god Hades. This helmet allowed Perseus to easily disappear and defeat the monsters in his path. Hades and Perseus face off against one another in Clash of the Titans. After his wife died, Orpheus went to the underworld in an effort to bring her back. Orpheus made his journey across the underworld while strumming his lyre and singing a sad song. Hades was moved to tears of iron when he heard the sad song and felt sympathy for Orpheus. He authorized Orpheus to bring his wife back to the world of the living. Hades stopped Orpheus from gazing back at his wife before he entered the underworld for fear that her soul would be lost forever. Orpheus wasn't at fault for not listening. When heroes die, the Greek deity Hades is responsible for looking after their souls. He pays tributes to heroes by creating Elysium, final resting place for those who lived moral and upright lives. What gives Hades such a bad image? It is well known that Christianity influences how the Greek deity Hades is portrayed in modern Western culture, particularly in cinema. In Christianity, the lower world is commonly associated with the devil and hell, since they both live in the underworld. Hades and the devil are frequently contrasted. A Christian worldview frequently shapes how Hades is depicted because Christian ideals have a significant impact on Western culture. Ancient Greek myths are unequivocal about how miserable Hades' life was. Achilles says in Homer's Odyssey, "I'd rather slave on earth for another man, some dirt-poor tenant farmer who scrapes to keep alive, than rule down here all over the breathless dead." If being a slave is preferable, being the lord of the underworld must be a challenging and horrible job. Although no one likes or aspires to be the Greek deity Hades, he is still alive. And that's for the video today. Thanks for listening.